Last Saturday, a 23-1 longshot named Golden Tempo came in from dead last in an 18-horse field and won the Kentucky Derby. You probably saw it. But here's what the highlight reel doesn't tell you. That trainer standing in that winner's circle, the person responsible for getting that horse to that moment, was a woman named Cherie DeVaux. And she was the first woman to ever do it. In 152 years of running the Kentucky Derby, 116 trainers had won that race. Every single one of them a man until Saturday. Hi everybody, I'm Char, and this is Cherie DeVaux' story and what it has to say to every outlier who's been grinding in a field that wasn't built for them, waiting for a door that nobody was opening. Now, Cherie's story begins in Saratoga Springs, New York, where she was born. Now, those of you that know horse racing, you know this is basically the center of the universe for the sport. Her parents raced and trained standard bred horses for harness racing, and she grew up around horses the way some kids grow up around baseball. It's just what they did. She has 9 siblings, 7 brothers and 2 sisters. So she also grew up knowing how to hold her own in a room full of people who weren't going to make space for her. Now, Cherie went to college as a pre-med student. She had a completely different life mapped out until she took a summer job working with racehorses. And that was it. That was the pivot point. She never went back to pre-med. What followed wasn't a straight line to the winner's circle. It never is. She started as an exercise rider, the person who gets up way before the sun and gets on the horse and puts in the conditioning work that nobody in the stands ever thinks about. Eventually, she became an assistant trainer, working under established names, learning the craft from the inside. Years of early mornings, years of doing the work that made other people's horses ready to run, years of building knowledge that nobody expected her to do much with. Now, let me get you some context about the accomplishment that she made and how rare her path was. The first woman trainer to ever saddle a horse in the Kentucky Derby was Mary Hirsch back in 1937. That was 89 years before Cherie DeVaux won it. And in all that time, only 18 women trainers ever got a horse to the starting gate at Churchill Downs. 18 in 89 years of trying. Well, Cherie's story continues, and in 2017, Cherie hit a wall. She was burnt out. She was at a crossroads trying to figure out what she wanted to do next with her life. She had been an assistant trainer long enough, and she was good enough to go out on her own. But going out on your own means you're betting on yourself when there's no guarantee that bet's going to pay off. Her husband pushed her to make that leap. So, in 2018, she got her trainer's license and she started her own stable with 8 horses. 8. She had a very, very slow start. And she said it herself with a laugh after winning the Derby. She said the first 3 years were really slow to get started. Kind of like Golden Tempo. She won her first race as a lead trainer on her 29th start. Not her first, her 29th. And that's not a failure. That's what building something from scratch actually looks like. 28 attempts before that first win. And she kept going because she knew what she was building. Even when these results weren't there yet, she kept building. And in 2021 and 2023, she had horses in the Breeders' Cup. And in 2024, she won the Breeders' Cup Mile with a horse named More Than Looks. And then on May 2nd, 2026, was Churchill Downs. 150,416 people were in the stands. The most famous 2 minutes in sports. Golden Tempo breaks from post 19, a post that had only produced one previous winner in Derby history. The gate opened and Golden Tempo immediately drops to the back of the pack, dead last. Not just behind, but 7 lengths behind at the top of the stretch. And then he runs. He threads through the traffic on the outside, catches horse after horse. Then he sprints to the line, passing the favorite right at the wire, and wins by a neck. 116 trainers had won this race before her. Cherie DeVaux became the first woman at number 117. Now, here's what Cherie said that every outlier should relate to. A few days before the race, Cherie was on the backstretch at Churchill Downs, and she saw a little girl watching the horses train. And something shifted. And this is what she said. She said, "It would be irresponsible of me to not acknowledge that what I'm doing does inadvertently make a difference, even if it's not my intent." That's not someone chasing a legacy. That's someone who set out to do the work, did it at the highest level, and then looked up and realized the weight of what she had built. She also said in her victory press conference, and I want you to hear exactly what she said. This is what she said. "Being a woman or my gender has never really crossed my mind in this. The thing that really has become apparent to me is not everyone has the same constitution I have mentally." Not everyone has the same constitution I have mentally. She's not saying she's tougher than everyone else. She's saying she found something inside herself that she kept coming back to through the slow years, through the 28 starts before that first win, through the mornings when nobody was watching and she didn't let go of it. That's what carried her to last Saturday. She also said, being a female in this industry, the standards aren't always equal. She said it plainly, without drama, without making it the centerpiece of her story. Because here's the thing about Cherie DeVaux, that she never led with the barrier. She led with the work. She told CBS News, "I've always just said I'm a horse trainer that happens to be female." She wasn't wrong. She is a horse trainer, one of the best in the country as it turns out. But she also knew and admitted that the standards weren't always equal, and that the doors weren't always open. That being only the 18th woman to saddle a Derby starter out of hundreds of trainers who had competed over 152 years wasn't an accident. She held both of those things at the same time. The unfairness was real, and it was never going to be her excuse. That's a very special kind of mental constitution. Now, I want to connect this to something. Now, horse racing is a trade. People forget that. Sometimes because of the glamour of the Derby and the hats and the mint juleps, but the backstretch is a workplace. It's physical, it's skilled, it's demanding, and it has operated for most of its history the way a lot of trades have operated, with a very clear picture of who gets to hold the reins. Cherie DeVaux grew up in that world. She mucked the stalls. She rode the horses in the dark before dawn. She sat in the assistant seat for years, building competence that wasn't fully recognized because the system wasn't built to recognize it in someone who looked like her. And then she went out on her own with 8 horses and built something that just won the Kentucky Derby. Now, if you're in the trades right now, if you're in construction, fleet, automotive, HVAC, electrical, any field where the room has a default picture of who belongs in it, and that picture doesn't look like you, Cherie DeVaux's story is your story. Not because the details match, but because the pattern does. You do the work, you build the competence, you hold the standard even when that standard isn't being held for you. You keep going through the slow years. You don't let that unfairness become the reason you stop. She didn't. Now, here's one more thing I want to say about last Saturday. When Golden Tempo crossed that finish line, Cherie DeVaux was nearly speechless. She said, I don't have any words right now. I'm just so happy for Golden Tempo. not for herself, not but for that horse. That's who she is. 22 years of work, a historic win, and her first thought was for that animal in her care. Now that's hard. Not the version that gets celebrated, the version that just quietly runs the show. 152 years, only 18 women ever got a horse to that starting gate. Now, one finally stands in the winner's circle. She didn't get there by waiting for the industry to make room. She got her license. She started with 8 horses, first win on her 29th attempt. She kept building. And when the moment came, she had a horse ready, a team ready, and 22 years of early mornings when nobody was watching to back it up. You're standing on her shoulders now. Every outlier who walks into an industry that has a 152-year habit of not seeing you, you're walking into a room Cherie DeVaux just changed, even if history almost didn't tell you her name. Now you know it. Thanks, everybody. I'm Char. Stay in the middle.